What's going on, guys? Welcome back to WWE Network and Chill, where I, Graham G. Matthews, break down all the original content I watch on the WWE Network. Today we're talking the latest edition of Talking Smack for September 5th, 2020. So we had Kayla Braxton back hosting again, as always. And for the first time here on the show, Xavier Woods, the recent birthday boy, which was cool. I was kind of worried a couple of weeks ago when I know they initially announced Xavier to be a host of the show. They brought on The Miz in place of Xavier. Xavier, I guess, didn't get the memo. And it's not Xavier's fault. It was WWE's fault, I believe, for telling him last minute. And, you know, WWE has a tendency to not tell their employees certain things, from what I could tell. And kind of the talent figure it out when the announcement comes out. Like, oh, Kayla probably figured it out in that moment. If not Kayla, definitely Xavier. That he was hosting Talking Smack when it was announced online. He already had other plans to do other shit. So they had to call in The Miz at the last minute to fill in for Xavier. And Xavier has his own YouTube channel. He does other stuff with gaming outside of WWE. He's a busy man. So, you know, whatever. We didn't have Xavier for those first 2 weeks. And it ended up being a great show. And that's not a slight on Xavier. I thought The Miz was great. And The Miz can be a dick. He can be annoying or whatever. But what he said to Big E about the whole serious thing, and you can kind of choose sides if you want, but what he said about, you know, being serious and you have to shed the joking and whatever to be a top talent in WWE was what a lot of people were already thinking. Not the overwhelming majority of the WWE universe, of the WWE fan base, but a decent amount of people were saying, oh, Big E's got to be more serious if he wants to be taken seriously as a single star, blah, blah, blah. So I thought the back and forths that they had last week and the week before were great. And I was worried when we didn't have The Miz on the show, would we still get that? Would it still be a cutting-edge show? Now, this wasn't as strong of an episode as the last 2 weeks, but Xavier, if anything, I thought was better than Kayla. Xavier was asking the hard-hitting questions. He knows how good all these people are. They had Alexa Bliss on, they had Cesaro Nakamura, and Cesaro kind of provided the mic drop moment of the episode, talking about how he's been used in recent years. And they also had on Jey Uso. So it was a good episode. It wasn't as controversial or as talked about, blah, 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 as the last couple of weeks. But still, I thought it was a good episode, and you know, they definitely honed in on certain things I didn't expect them to, like Cesaro bringing up his various gimmicks over the years and whatever. And a lot of this was set in storyline. But, you know, Xavier's not just here for fun and games, which he's great at. He's very entertaining. But I'm also glad, a lot like The Miz, that he's bringing that straightforwardness, you know, to the show as well, which I appreciate. So Xavier Woods is back, and Kayla, before they welcome on any guests, they discussed the injury updates to Sasha Banks and Big E. Now, I don't even know what she said about the injury updates. It's all bullshit, obviously. It's all storyline stuff, so I won't even repeat them here. You can go on WWE.com to find out actual injury updates, quote-unquote, on the superstars. But essentially, Xavier calls Sheamus disgusting, his actions disgusting for what he did to his brother Big E. And he also kind of reiterates what Big E has already said here on the show, that New Day and Big E know when to be serious when it's needed. For example, during the Usos feud he brings up, which is a great point 3 years ago, they weren't fucking laughing and joking that entire time. They did a rap segment where it was kind of a lot of jokes, but when it was time to get serious, they got fucking serious. And at the, what would it have been? Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, obviously, I guess they had that Hell in a Cell match, they were serious, so the New Day knows when to get serious. And they also discuss the Sasha Banks-Bayley split. And Xavier says that he wasn't surprised by what happened. He thought, if anything, it was going to be Sasha to be the one to turn on Bayley out of jealousy. He always figured that jealousy would bubble up. But, you know, Kayla brings up a great point. How did you guys, that being the New Day, how did you coexist for so long, have been able to coexist for so long without splitting up, without turning on each other? You know, Bayley and Sasha have had their fair share of arguments and whatnot in the last couple of years on the main roster. New Day never have. So what's kept them together? And Xavier says that they've always done, himself, Kofi Kingston, and Big E, have always done what's good for the group. They just did what was good for themselves, Sasha Banks and Bayley. I know he didn't mean this as a shoot comment, but he goes, you know what, I expect them to just patch it up and start teaming again in 6 months to a year. And I know he meant that from a storyline standpoint, like, oh, they're that good of friends, they're that close, that they can patch it up and be fine in 6 months to a year. I took that as a double meaning, not only what he said, but also from a WWE booking standpoint, that no split ever really lasts. No team ever really lasts, except I guess if you're the New Day. but also no split last either. They're always bound to reunite at some point down the road, and they will be no different, according to Xavier Woods. I thought that was funny for whatever reason. So they then welcome on their first guests for the show, Cesaro and Shinsuke Nakamura. Cesaro obviously did a majority of the talking. They do talk to Shinsuke. I'm going to be completely honest with you. Even some of what Cesaro said, he brought up like TakeOver Cardiff or whatever. I have no idea what the fuck he was talking about because he like whispered at a certain point. You couldn't really make out what he was saying. Nakamura was even worse. I hate to say it, but like his English was not great. That's not really his fault, but they probably shouldn't have had him talk as much as he did just because it was really... It's not that his English is bad. It's just that it sounds like he mumbles a lot, and it's really hard to make out what he's saying. I really wish that Kayla or Xavier or even Cesaro had like repeated what he was saying to kind of make it clear for the audience, because it was really hard to make out what he was saying. So I didn't even really write down what he had to say. But they do like a champion salute to kick off the episode, which was funny. They joke about left to right, which Cesaro is a part of Xavier Woods' YouTube channel. They discuss that. But he also discusses his accomplishments. And they kind of bring up how Cesaro, why aren't you a world champion? Why have you only been really a tag team champion? You're a former United States champion, Andre the Giant, Memorial Battle Royal winner, multi-time tag team champion. Where's the world title? Is basically what Xavier Woods asks. He brings up how they've given him a lot of dumb gimmicks over the years, including being a rugby player, yodeling, being a real American, all this other shit. But he did everything to the best of his ability. He sees everything the company tells him not to do. Don't wear this color. Don't say that. Don't do this. Don't do this move. Don't do that move. He sees it as a challenge. When he said the move thing, like, oh, don't do this move, someone else is doing it now, even though you've been doing it first. When he first brought that up, I don't know what he was talking about, that thing, but he mentioned, like, oh, don't do this move. Then I'll just bring out 3 other moves to do in that move's place. It sounded like he was talking about the Cesaro swing, because we haven't really seen that move at all in the last couple of years. So I feel like he was talking about that, but I might be wrong. But he sees it all as a challenge. And they kind of get off track. They talk about entanglement, kind of referencing that whole Will Smith thing with his wife recently. And he mentions that he hasn't had hair since 27 because Kayla goes, Cesaro goes, oh, tangled hair, which was stupid. And then Kayla's like, oh, where's your hair? And then Cesaro's like, I haven't had any since 27, and that's been the basis of many arguments. Just ask Dolph Ziggler. And he just gets completely off track before Xavier Woods kind of brings it back. They kind of reel him back in here. Xavier does. So he asks Nakamura what he likes most about Cesaro. This is what I can kind of pick up from what he said. He likes the fact that Cesaro is sensitive, which you would, I guess, usually take as a shot, as like, oh, why you like, as like a negative thing. But Nakamura likes that about Cesaro. He likes the fact that he's sensitive. And then Cesaro calls Nakamura like one of the coolest people he's hung out with. He calls him, a lot of fun. He really praises him. He's been watching his work even well beyond WWE, even over back in Japan. So they're really happy to be partners. They then bring on Alexa Bliss, and this does not last long. She brings back the pigtails, as we saw on SmackDown itself. She's acting all odd and strange and whatever. And she says that she and Nikki Cross, despite what happened between them last week on SmackDown, they've never been better. They've patched things up. They're like sisters. Everything's all right between the two. Bliss calls her dealings with the Fiend interesting. She calls him an interesting guy. And when Xavier says, how have you been doing during all of this? She just kind of stares off into space. They get back on track real quickly, and then she leaves. So she doesn't really answer how she's doing. She goes, oh, I'm fine. How are you? Blah, blah, blah. And then she just abruptly leaves. And they're like, okay. And then Kayla says that she was concerned about Alexa, and Woods references how he's had his own dealings with Wyatt, with not the Fiend, but Bray Wyatt a number of years ago, which was cool. And how, he brings up how he had his friends to kind of reel him back in, and how Nikki Cross is kind of that friend to Alexa Bliss, and hopefully she can kind of help her out. So they then bring on Jey Uso. I almost said Jimmy Uso. Jey Uso. And he brings the party streamers, and he sprays it all over the place, getting it into Xavier Woods' hair and onto his suit and whatever, which was cool. He's obviously very excited, coming off his big Fatal 4 we went on SmackDown, where he became the number 1 contender to Roman Reigns' Universal Championship at Clash of Champions. And they kind of bring up how, Roman took some shots at you on SmackDown. How do you feel about that? He goes, oh, Roman's always been that way. We've always, busted each other's balls. It doesn't say that, but that's basically what he's kind of getting at. He does it out of love Jay says. And that he was genuinely happy to see Roman. In reference to Paul Heyman, they go, how do you feel about the whole Paul Heyman connection thing? He goes, I love it. I love Paul Heyman. He goes way back with our Samoan Dynasty family. He's managed the, various Samoan tag teams before, so I love the guy, but I don't trust him. And Kayla goes, yeah, no, you shouldn't. And then he says he never really thought about winning a singles title. It's always been about becoming a tag team champion, so he's really excited to get his sights set on that Universal Championship Comet Clash of Champions later this month. They then celebrate real briefly Xavier Woods' birthday. They bring out a cake for him. They sing non-copyrighted music because if they sing, I think if you sing any portion of the song of the Happy Birthday song, you might, it's an infringement of copyright, so you can't do that. But anyway, I thought this whole thing was great. It was a very fun episode. Not a great episode, not as good as the last 2 weeks, but still worth checking out. Specifically for the Cesaro comments. The Alexa Bliss and Jey Uso stuff was interesting. It was storyline driven. It was all right. But I thought the Cesaro comments were even better. Even though sometimes you can't really understand what he's saying. You can't really understand at certain points what Nakamura is saying. But other than that, it was a good episode. So be sure to like this video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. My review of SmackDown should already be up, so check that out. Be sure to hit that little bell button as well to be notified every time a new video goes up here on the channel. And that's about it, guys. So be sure to take care. Enjoy AEW All Out tonight if you're watching it live. And I'll be back tomorrow. I forgot what we're breaking down, but I don't know if it's a new timeline or what. I think it's the new Chronicle on Braun Strowman. If not something else, I forget. But there's a new video going up tomorrow. Be sure to check that out here on the channel when it goes up early tomorrow. Until then, guys, have a great one. I'm Graham G.S. Matthews. I'll catch your ass down the road.